Hello everybody, welcome to Deluxe Collectibles, and today I'm going to be discussing one of my potential theories for what the storyline could be for LEGO Ninjago in 2022. I wanted to take a moment to discuss this with all of you and kind of let you know my thoughts and theories on where I think the story should go for next year. Now, I have multiple different theories, so I'm sure I can make quite a few videos in the future at some point, but I wanted to focus on one primary one that I've been thinking about quite a bit lately. So, without further ado, let's get straight into it here with my theory. Alright, so to kick this off here, the idea that I would propose for the 2022 storyline and the notion that I kind of want it to go by is that the ninja need to fail in order to succeed. And you're probably wondering what I mean by that. And basically, to explain it, I want the format of this season to basically kind of be similar to how the island and Seabound were connected to each other. Of course, I know we separate those two as separate seasons, but I want it to be a similar sort of format, but just more closely connected. Of course, with the island, it did end up leading into Seabound, but it wasn't as closely connected as I would have liked it to have been. I know we introduced the keepers in that, but they didn't really end up playing a huge role, arguably, in Seabound, but I want them to do something akin to this. So basically, what I would like them to do is, of course, after Seabound having the loss of Nia, or her basically leaving, I think the natural response for the whole ninja team would be to want to try to get her back. Of course, we kind of saw when she was leaving that it seemed like they were kind of at peace with this, but also I don't really think they fully are. At least some of the members of the team are definitely going to be pushing to get Nia. Of course, two of the main ones I would say would be Jay and Kai, the two with arguably the closest connections to Nia. So I think it would make sense if we open up this new sort of season for 2022 with Kai and Jay having a really difficult time sort of moving on. We can even open it up with maybe some sort of action sequence similar to what they did with Seabound, where they were facing off against Misdemeanor. I think you could do something like this where they're facing off against another villain, and you can see that Kai and Jay are just not in it. They're just not really feeling the flow that the team normally has, and of course that's because they're missing a member here. And I think the thing that you could sort of do with this is that you can show that storyline almost a separate thing here. I've done videos discussing who should be the main ninja for the storyline of 2022, or at least this new season 16, and arguably I think it should focus on two of them, Kai and Jay. I've talked about whether it should be Kai or Jay, and if I had to only pick one, I would go with Kai, but I think it would be smart to focus on both of these two, because I think then we can show development for both of them and kind of how they handle things differently, because there's always been that sort of theory of Kai wanting to go like evil, or people wanting Kai to turn evil basically, and I think this could kind of give the opportunity to at least give him more of like an anti-hero sort of storyline for this new 2022 season. So I definitely think that could be a potential direction that they could end up going in. But what I kind of want from this is that, so we set that up basically in this mini sort of season to kick it off. You could do 4 episodes similar to what they did with the island and kind of set it up here and almost have it like package it as like a mini movie of sorts. But I think it would be smart to kind of introduce the main threat of the core season in this sort of special of sorts. I think that introducing the keepers in the previous one, yes, it's completely smart that they did that sets wise, because then you get this whole sort of separate wave of sets where it's self-contained. But I think it would be great if somehow they could interconnect this with Seabound, or with not Seabound, but whatever that new season 16 is, and kind of have this special to tie into it. So you introduce this main villain, and then we get to see the ninja trying to like investigate almost and kind of find out what they're up to. And I think this is where you could tie in the Venge Stone buyer. I know a lot of people want the Venge Stone buyer, of course myself included as well. So I think this could be the perfect opportunity to kind of introduce that new antagonist here and then tie it into sort of how they're trying to search for Nia, and instead they wind up coming across this Venge Stone buyer. So I think that would be interesting. And then that's where we kind of loop it into the main season. But I think at the end of this sort of special of sorts, you can kind of see Kai maybe go out on his own, and then Jay maybe stays with the team, because maybe they have a different perspective here. Kai's personality I've always felt is more fiery, hence his element, and I think he's more rash. He makes quicker decisions and things like this, and I think he might go out on his own. I almost kind of see him as a similar sort of character archetype as like Raphael is within Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, so I could kind of see him going off on his own to try to search for Nia, and then just kind of having those two storylines kind of interweave with each other throughout this season. So I feel like that could make a lot of sense. And then you have Jay stay with the ninja team, of course, but still wanting to like find Nia, of course, but just doing it with the team. And I think this is where you could introduce maybe a new team member. Now, I'm not saying a permanent team member, of course, but I know there's, of course, hints of us getting more storyline development for Skylar. So I think she would honestly be the perfect person to not replace Nia, but to just join the ninja team in the meantime, because then we get development for her character, and we also get to see her interacting with the other ninja. I understand that, of course, Kai and her are like a couple basically, but it would be interesting to see her dynamic with these other characters. Of course, we got to see a little bit of that in Hunted, but I think it would be cool to kind of evolve upon that and sort of grow that relationship between her and the other ninjas. So I think that could be interesting to see, and maybe they bring her in as well, because they're like, hey, Kai's gone missing, he's gone off on his own, I think we need your help to kind of bring him back to the ninja team. So I think that could also be a smart way to do it as well. So I think that could definitely tie it all together, and you can kind of course conclude that in a sort of way. Now, I'm not going to propose who I think could be the potential villain for this. I know I said Venge buyer, but of course that's not specifically saying who the Venge buyer will be. I'm not going to try to make a guess of who that would be within this video, at least. Maybe in the future I'll make some sort of theory video on that, but I think that that's kind of their goal. They're trying to go after this Venge buyer, and then somehow trying to search for Nia is tied into that as well. And we get to see Kai primarily just searching for Nia, and then the other ninja kind of going after this buyer with also the goal of finding Nia, and that's how their storylines can kind of converge with each other. So I think that could just kind of be an interesting sort of premise and idea for this season. I think it would be really cool to kind of see them split off like this, Kai going off on his own, Skylar joining the team. So I think that could be good for both of their character developments, and see them in different environments as well. Of course, we don't really get to see the ninja, at least primarily on their own, so I think that could be really interesting to explore. And it's not necessarily making an evil Kai, it's just making a Kai that's being more independent, kind of on his own sort of journey and mission and development as well. So I think that could be an interesting way of doing it. I'm not saying he's like joining the dark side, or he's like going to join the Venge buyer or anything of that sort. I think it would just be interesting to see him going out on his own, and then seeing how the other ninja are dealing with this situation as well, of losing a team member, and kind of how that whole sort of repertoire between all of the team members kind of is with Skylar joining the team. We've never really seen that of someone new joining the team, at least like as a core member, and I think this could be kind of interesting to explore the reactions of all of the ninja. I'm sure at the end of the day they would be open to it, because they all already know Skylar and are familiar with her, but it would be interesting, especially with Jay. How does he feel about this? Kind of explore that a little bit. So I definitely think there's a lot of possibilities there just within this single theory here, but I'm gonna kind of leave it off there because there's not too much more that I can go into, but you can kind of hopefully understand the premise that I'm sort of trying to create here and concoct. I think it could be really interesting to kind of explore this storyline. So let me know all of your thoughts for the 2022 storyline that I've kind of proposed here, and let me know your own theories as well. Definitely expect more theory videos like this in the future, sort of discussing other ideas as well for storylines that they could explore, and also the format as well that I kind of want them to go with also for 2022. So stay tuned for all of that on the channel. I hope you did enjoy the video. If you did, it would be highly appreciated if you could leave a like, also subscribe as well. If you would like to check out some of my other content, that would be appreciated as well. So just thanks so much. I'll see you all next time, and always remember, keep on collecting.